Shlomo Zalman? Could you hear me?
Say it again.
Could you hear me there?
I hear you. I'm waiting for my daughter to unmute me. Let's see.
Oh, no, okay. I see you and I can hear you.
Do you hear me or no?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good.
Okay, and
I'll even thank you again for now that we're starting Psachim. So also the cases that we're learning is we learned in the Mishnah Berurah here. So
yeah, it's actually funny.
Even just to start off.
No, it's funny because you're gonna have a Gemara in what? I guess in about 3 days. You're gonna have a Gemara where the Gemara is gonna talk about Chalamayid, and the Gemara you're gonna have a famous Machlekes Rishonim, whether or not the Isser Malacha on Chalamayid is it D'Rabbanan or is it D'Oraisa, and that's exactly what we're gonna start off Chelik Vav with. So it's going to be concurrent. Rav Hirsch, I see you over there as well. You could hear? Could be he's muted because I do see him. Okay. All right.
And thank you.
Yeah. Shlomo Zalman, you said something?
I said thank you again for the cake.
My pleasure.
The cake.
My pleasure.
Very nice.
So I don't know. It looks to me like I don't know if Moshe Zweig is having trouble getting on. Let me see.
It's old people going on Zoom for the first time.
It could be. Let me see. Let's see, I'm just giving him a quick call.
Yeah. Put it in the freezer, man.
It looks to me like somebody is watching on YouTube, so that could be either him or Willie. Let's see. I don't know. Okay. Oh, so Willie is saying he can't get in. Why not? Why can't he get in?
Again, I wasn't sure, but it's space C, and I wonder if that's the problem. Oh, did it? Oh.
So what was it? With a space or without a space?
Hello?
Hello, Willie?
Yes, Rabbi.
You having trouble getting in?
Yes, I have the meeting ID I put in with what you gave us.
Right.
Let me do what we're talking. Okay, so the ID is 470, which I'm putting in. 470.
Let me pull it up.
194, and then so I put down join. Now it is for the meeting passcode, so I'm putting in capital C.
Yeah.
HAFETZ C.
Try putting a space between the Chafetz and the C.
Okay. HAFETZ. It automatically will. Let's see. No, when you do that, I think it adds on an asterisk. CHA.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so do it without the space. But and did you do the C, the second C as a capital?
No, the second C shows a lowercase.
No, do the second C as a capital as well.
Oh, let's see. No. HAFETZ, capital C. No, it's unusual.
I don't know why. I have Shlomo Zalman is on and Moshe Hirsch is on. It looks to me like Moshe Zweig is also having. Now, you could go on YouTube because I'm streaming it to YouTube as well.
Yeah, but we're going to do it on Zoom.
Yeah, I would like to see you. So
let me do a sign in first. See if that will help.
Tell him to go back to the meeting ID. Did he get the 8494 at the end?
hold on, I'm gonna get my daughter here for 1 second because she knows this better than me. Hold on.
Will, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
There you go.
Try doing the meeting ID again. 470-449-8494.
The meeting ID is 470.
Yeah.
449
Yeah.
8494.
Yes.
And then press join.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the meeting, so that went through. It's the passcode, which is having a problem. CHAFETZ.
Capital CH.
Capital CH, right? Then the last C capital also, right?
Right. I thought my wife did a space C, but maybe part of it didn't.
I don't know. Some people are having trouble getting in, and I don't know why.
It's not going with the space. Space gives you another asterisk.
So just try it. Try space C.
Where can I see?
FETZ space.
Where can I see the information on this meeting? If I want to see
No.
the meeting ID, the meeting password, where can I see that?
No. And I use it.
Usually what happens
Let me do a
is...
sign in and see if that'll correct it maybe for some reason. I haven't had a problem.
Usually I have...
If I want to see the meeting information,
Like to share the meeting, like to get into the meeting.
Yeah, I just want to see what the meeting information is, and I can't find where to see it because they're having trouble. I sent them the password.
So now I'm going to try it again. Okay, so I went into my account. Want to see if that'll change it maybe. 470 44. And you're not skipping. The idea is all the numbers in a row, no skipping.
Well, I mean, I don't know. The way it was broken up on the screen, there were spaces. It was fun. It was.
Right.
Yeah, but it doesn't...
But I don't think that
You
matters.
don't put that in, no. Should I see if I can get in? Or-
Yeah, take a computer and see if you could get in. My wife is going to try to get in. I'll just see if she has trouble. See, I don't know. Shlomo Zalman got in.
Tell Shira to come here. Let me ask her if she did anything different. Oh, you typed it in?
Oh, here's the meeting information. Okay, I'm looking at the meeting information right now.
Right.
470-449-8494. And the passcode here shows as capital C HAFETZ space capital C.
Where space is just an asterisk. It just puts in an asterisk.
So, and what happens if you do that? Let's.
I tried that also. Nothing.
And you did it with a capital C?
Yeah. Let me try one more time. I didn't have this before.
You doing Zoom?
Yeah, here it is, Rachel.
Hold on 1 second.
I'm meeting passcode.
Join the meeting. What's the
CHAFETZ
470
capital C.
Yeah.
449
No, same thing.
8494.
8494.
And the passcode
1 second. Open Zoom meeting. What's the password?
capital C
One
HAF
second. Capital C.
HAFETZ
1 second. Capital C.
HAF
HAF
ETZ
BTZ
space
space
capital C.
connecting. Hold on, I'll let you in soon.
So my wife just did it and she was going straight in.
First one we do. You have anything?
Two people entered the waiting room View. Oh, 1 second. So where are the people in the waiting room? Why don't I see them?
Right here.
Oh, here.
You do.
Oh, wait a second. Hold it. Hirsch.
You have to let us in?
Admit.
It's probably tiny. That's probably me.
Okay, who's Pearl Hirsch? That must be Hirsch. I don't see.
Pearl Hirsch is Shimon.
Okay, so Shimon I just let in.
Oh, so wait, so I have to go back in again then, because I couldn't get in.
Oh, so do it again. Maybe that was the problem. It wasn't showing me because my wife just did it and she got straight in.
Oh, that's me.
What's you?
That's me.
This?
I think so. Admit me.
So, oh, that's me. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, join.
Let's see. Yeah. So that's me. Okay, I'm gonna get out of here.
Okay, that's gonna create. Okay.
Okay, I still didn't get in.
And what kind of message are you getting?
It says the password was incorrect. Please try again.
And you did Rachel, you did Chafetz space.
Capital C.
You need a space.
Yeah, so you need the space. It's capital C
F-E-T-Z.
space capital C.
Join meeting. Still not getting in.
So strange. I can't imagine what Pshat is. Willie can't get in. I don't know why.
I'm
Maybe you
doing
can
something else.
phone, but look on YouTube.
Let's try one more time. No.
If not, maybe you stay on the phone.
Well, at least you can hear him.
You know what? I could probably do it on the phone and get in.
Well, I mean, again, if you go on YouTube, at least you could see me. I can't see you, but at least you could see me. If you have YouTube, and you'll have the sound from YouTube also. And if you leave your phone on, then we could hear you. I can't see you, but we could hear you.
Okay, so let me do this. I have to go into
Yes, I do, Rav Shimon.
Okay. Thank you for the cake.
It's my pleasure.
we couldn't get in. We couldn't call you either.
Do you see me?
You don't have Rav Shimon. Your video must not be on because I see over here. I see two Hirsches actually. I don't know. I see Pearl Hirsch.
Okay. I'm using now my wife's phone.
Oh, so I don't know. Maybe the video is not on because I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Oh.
As long as it can open it.
Okay.
You want me to try to get the video on?
Yeah, try to get the video. Yeah.
Might listen.
You have a camera?
Now your video is on.
Okay.
Ah. Now I can see you. It's good to see you.
Shine upon him.
Okay.
Now, what's going on with Moshe Zweig? Because it sounds like he's also having trouble. Shlomo Zalman.
Yeah.
You want to try to give Moshe a call?
The meeting passcode is not taking. That's the problem. It's letting me go in, but it's not taking the passcode.
It's so strange. I can't imagine why.
We call
I could delete it and restart, unpin from taskbar, start Zoom. Let's see, join.
So I don't know what trouble Moshe Zweig. I wonder if he's having the same problem.
Hi, Moshe. You trying on Zoom or? I wonder, and you're doing a capital C, Chafetz space, capital C. Very older. All right. You hear that, Lice?
No, I didn't hear what he said.
He says that he also is having problems. He couldn't connect, but he's on YouTube. He hears us talking, but he's not able to.
Aha! All right, so at least he's on YouTube.
Okay, so what do I do now? So I go into YouTube.
Yeah, if you.
All I have to do is put my finger
Right. Uh-huh.
I see the rub now.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, I see it.
All right. So everybody is on.
And then it's smooth.
Okay,
All right,
good.
but everybody's on. Okay, good. Rabbi Weiss is out.
Okay. Baruch Hashem.
I guess we'll start, Rabbi.
Yeah. So we're gonna start. Usually I start by saying welcome back to our virtual Dirshu Mishnah Berurah here, but now everybody's on and I'm doing it live. I don't have to say that. Usually I start by saying welcome back. Oh, what's that? I'm getting a double. Hold on. Okay, let me just shut off. Okay, very good. Kufdun Gimel Amid Beis, the bottom line, the top line of Kufdun Gimel Amid Beis in the Mechaber. Says the Mechaber, we said yesterday that your Chayav Adam Li Yosameach V'Tov Lei B'Mayid Hu V'Ishto Yubana V'Chal Nilvim Elov. We said that you have a Chiv to be Misameach on Yom Tov, and you have to be Misameach your family members. Now the Mechaber says, Keitzad Misamchan. How are you Misameach your family members? Says the Mechaber, HaKetanim, when it comes to young children, Noisen Lehem Kloyos Ve'egoizim. You give them toasted grains, that's Kloyos. So that's kind of what stood for candy back in those days. And I think the thing that we have nowadays that's the most similar to that, I know they had them when I was a kid, and originally I never wanted to taste them, but when I finally got the guts to taste them, I found out that they tasted good. Those toasted sesame candies. It was kind of like sesame mixed with honey, and you would get it in a little candy wrapper. So that's kloyos, some kind of toasted grains. Ve'egoizim, and nuts. So you're misameach kids with good tasting treats. V'hanashim, and when it comes to women, kainim lahem begadim v'tachshitin. It says you should buy them begadim, you should buy them nice clothing, v'tachshitin, and different types of jewelry, kefi memoinai, and a person should do it within his station. He should spend money that makes sense. He shouldn't go on a spending spree and spend money that he doesn't have. And I think that the Mechaber, one of the reasons the Mechaber has to make that point is because we said yesterday, we spoke about Mezainos of Shaladam Ktsuvin Loi Rosh Hashanah, with the exception of Haitzai Shabbos and Haitzai Yom Tov, and we spoke about how the Haitzai Shabbos and Haitzai Yom Tov don't cost you anything. You get them free, but nevertheless, that doesn't mean that you go crazy and you go to 47th Street and you buy the most expensive jewelry you could find. It has to be Kefim Emoina. It has to be something that makes sense according to a person's Parnasa. Now, there's a very interesting Biur Halacha over here. The Biur Halacha Dibra Maschel Keitzad Besamchen Haktanim V'Hanoshim. So the Mechaber mentioned what we do for children, and the Mechaber said what we do for women. But how about what do we do for ourselves? What do we do for men? That the Mechaber doesn't say. So the Biur Halacha says over here, V'Hanoshim, when it comes to men, Bezman Shebeis Hamikdash Hayekayim, when we was oichet to have a Beis Hamikdash and we had the karbonos, hayu oichlin basar hashlamim l'simcha. The true simcha that we had was from the eating the basar shlamim. When we ate the basar kachim, the parts of the karbonos that were for us, that was the main simcha. Ukidiksiv, like it says in the pasuk, v'zavachta shlamim. This is actually not talking about shalmei re'iyah or shalmei simcha. This is talking about a regular carbon shlamim, but we learn out the same halacha. It says, "V'zavachta shlamim," you'll eat a carbon shlamim. V'achalta sham, you'll eat it there by the Beis Hamikdash l'fnei Hashem. V'samachta, and you'll rejoice. So you see that the ikar simchas Yom Tov is with the basar shlamim. V'achshav she'ein Beis Hamikdash kayim. Nowadays, with Nebuch, we don't have a Beis Hamikdash, and we always have to remember that every dar that the Beis Hamikdash is not rebuilt is, unfortunately, the Chazal tell us, is like a dar that the Beis Hamikdash was nechrav. So if we're not zoichet to have a Beis Hamikdash now, unfortunately it means it's as if it was nechrav in our days. So v'achshav she'ein Beis Hamikdash kayim, ein yotzin yidei chayv simcha elo b'yayin. The chiyuv of simcha that we have, we are mekayim with shtias yayin. So when it comes to Yom Tov, go out, buy yourself a nice bottle of Cabernet, or if you like the sweet stuff, go buy some of the sweet stuff. but you have to have yayin on Yom Tov. Shenamar, like it says, the pasuk in Tehillim, the yayin yisamach lavav enoish, that yayin, wine, makes the heart of a man rejoice. Aval basar, but when it comes to basar, ein chayva le'echal achshav, there is no chiyuv of basar on Yom Tov nowadays, kevan she'ein lanu basar shlamim, because the true chiyuv of basar is only by basar kachim. It's not regular basar. When we come makom, nevertheless, the Chavetz Chaim says, mitzvah yesh gam ba'achilas basar, there certainly is a mitzvah to eat basar, kevan shenemar boi simcha, because for it, the pasuk does say that basar brings simcha. So the true simcha is basar kachim, but so there's no chiyuv on us now, but it is a mitzvah because that definitely is something that makes a person feel good and brings to simcha. V'hamachaber shaloi hizkir basar, and the Mechaber doesn't write over here basar. Azal l'shitase bebeis Yosef. He's going according to his shita that we can see recorded in the Beis Yosef Ayin Sham. Ole'inyan yayin samach amasha hiskir b'sifalav shetzarach l'kbaya suda ala yayin. The Mechaber doesn't mention yayin over here because he already mentioned previously that there's an Indian to be kavaya suda on Yom Tov al hayayin. Okay, so we had over here so far that for children we have klayos and egoizim. For women, we have begadim and tachshitin, and now we had that for men, you have yayin. Okay, says the Mechaber weiter, v'chayiv lahachil lager layosaim v'la'almana im sha'ar aniyim. When you prepare your Yom Tov and you make your Yom Tov Suda, you have to also make sure that the less fortunate among us, you have to make sure, for instance, a ger, the reason we have a ger listed over here is because a ger is somebody who typically he doesn't have family. He really doesn't have friends in our social circles, so a ger very often is left out on his own. So v'chayiv lahachil ger, you have to make sure that the ger has a beautiful Yom Tov Suda. La yasaim nebach, if you have yisaimim, you have to make sure that they have. The almana, the almanas have to have. Im sha'ar aniyim, together with other aniyim, we have to make sure to take care of them and not neglect them while we're busy with our simcha. And there's a beautiful Mishnah Berurah over here that makes the point very strongly. Says the Mishnah Berurah, v'chayv lahachil lager layasaim, shenemar, because we know we have a beferish pasuk that says, v'halevi v'hager v'hayasaim. You have to make sure that when you're misameach, you're also misameach, the levi, the ger, the yasaim. Aval misha noyel dalsei chatzeroi. But somebody who ba'avayniseinu or rabbim, somebody who closes up the gates of his chatzer, v'oichel, and he eats, v'shoise, and he drinks, who ubanav ishtai, him, his children, his wife, ve'enoi machil u'mashkil la'aniyim u'lamorei nefesh, and he doesn't make sure to also give food to those aniyim or to the other morei nefesh, to the people who are unfortunate. Ein zu simchas mitzvah, then his simchas Yom Tov is not considered a simchas mitzvah, ela simchas kreisoi, which literally means it's only a simcha of his stomach. It's like when I was in yeshiva and you said a svara and your Rebbe said to you, it's a boich svara. So over here it's a boich simcha. It's not a simcha shel mitzvah, you're just being misameach your own stomach. V'al elu nemar, and about these people the Navi says in Hosea, zivchehem, their karbonos, kalechem oinim lohem. It's like the bread of a mourner, it's like a mourner's meal. Kol oichlav yitamou, all of their food is considered tameh, ki lachmam lenafsham, because their lechem, their carbon, is only being brought for themselves. They're locked up in their own world, they're living for themselves, they're not caring about other people, and therefore, says the Chavetz Chaim, tamehu. This person is considered tameh. The simcha kazu, and a simcha of this type is kaloin hu lahem. It's a bezoyan for them. Shenemar, like the Navi says in Malachi, v'zeirisi peresh al penechem. I will spread out peresh's excrement al penechem, on their faces, peresh chagechem, the excrement of their chagim, the excrement of their yomim tovim, and that's a remez to the karbonos that they bring, but they don't make sure to take care of the aniyim at the same time. V'gam b'zayir hakadosh maflig ba'oid ba'oinish mi she'enoi noisen la'ani misudasei b'yom tov rachmanu litzlan. The Zayar also speaks very strongly and lengthily about the punishment that somebody gets if he enjoys a Sudas Yom Tov, but he doesn't make sure that the aniyim around him are enjoying a Sudas Yom Tov. All the Achrayim write regarding this Indian, V'nisparsem gadol achiyav l'chol Yisrael. And it's very mefursim, it's very well known, the tremendous chiyuv that Gans Klal Yisrael has to make sure that the aniyim and the mari nefesh have what they need for Yom Tov. Valkain, and the Chavetz Chaim says, therefore, because it's mefursim, and because everybody does really know about this, Baruch Hashem einoi matzoi sheyishar ani b'Yom Tov b'li suda. It's very uncommon that there should be an ani that doesn't have a suda for Yom Tov. Aval ma nase im ha'umlalim v'hanidkaim b'ir shemizbaishin lifshoit yadoy ulevakesh. It's true that the aniyim that we know about, those aniyim who come and they ask, those aniyim Baruch Hashem are being taken care of. But what do we do about the umlalim and the nidkaim, those unfortunates who are in the city, who are embarrassed and they don't come and they don't ask? Valkain, and therefore because of this problem, Nagu be'ezem ha'kaimos, in several places they have the minig, she'koidim Yom Tov, before Yom Tov, holchin nevaynei leiv, those people of generous heart go lebatei ha'ashirim, to wealthy individuals, lekabei tzavor elu amari nefesh, to collect for these sorts of people. V'ashrei ha'anoshim shemesimen ayin al zeh, fortunate are those people who they set their eye and they pay attention to this. Shemezakin la'atzman, they're bringing schusim for themselves, umezakin l'chol anshe ha'ir, and they're bringing schusim for the rest of the people of the city. So this is something that I think we have to take very much to heart, which is, I think especially in a way nowadays, Baruch Hashem, we have so many organizations, and we have Timchei Shabbos, and we have all of these sorts of organizations, and we kind of expect that the aniyim are being taken care of. And yet, it sometimes happens that in our circles, there are people who are falling through the cracks. And I think it behooves everybody just to have on their mind, is there anybody that I know of? I experienced this. I experienced this before Pesach. I think it was before this past Pesach, where I thought of somebody and I said, I hope somebody is taking care of him for Yom Tov. And I made a couple of discreet phone calls, and I found out that he was exactly the type of person who falls through the cracks. He wasn't saying anything to anybody. He's not savvy, so he didn't know to call different organizations and this and that. And Taka didn't have for him and for his family. So Baruch Hashem, we were able to put together and make sure that he does have. But I'm just saying, I think everybody has to try and think, is there anybody that they know who might be struggling, who Taka might not have? And then have that in mind. Okay. Says the Ramah, finishing up Sif Beis over here. V'din tainis b'Yom Tov. As far as the halacha of fasting on Yom Tov, k'moi b'Shabbos. The halacha of fasting on Yom Tov is the same as the halacha of fasting on Shabbos. V'ayin le'el siman reish pei ches. And the Mishnah Berurah here in Ois Katan Yud Ches tells us what the Ramah is referring to. Mashma me haRamah, from the fact that the Ramah sends me to siman reish pei ches, the implication is to daitoi le'inyan tainis chaloim. He's referencing us to the halacha of a tainis chaloim, somebody who's fasting because of a bad dream that he had. It's brought down that you should fast a tainis chaloim on Yom Tov. When it comes to a tainis chaloim nowadays, I know that Reb Ruvain Zal Zayin Gesund always tells me from the Gemara in Brachas that if somebody has a dream and he could overlook it, doesn't bother him, he's not concerned about it, then he doesn't have to worry about it. But there are times that people can't overlook a dream, they struggle with it, and it really plays on their mind. So there is an Indian of a tainis chaloim. V'ayin be'eli rabba shehevi b'shem drashais maharash shaloi lehisanis b'yom she'oilin laduchan. Even though there is a concept of making a tainis chaloim on Yom Tov, but not if it's a day when there's berchas kaihanim. Mipnei she'amar hashas, because the Gemara in Brachas says that if somebody has a bad dream, the leika mekami kahani, he should stand before the kahanim when they duchen, the parsi adaihu, when the kahanim are duchening and they spread out their fingers, valema, and they should say the tefillah that we say, the Rabbeinu Shalom tefillah that we say, which is a tefillah about chalaimos. Umarich be'inyan zeh, and he speaks lengthily about this. Ulabasayif maybe b'shem achrayim, and in the end he brings down from the achrayim the minig pashut lehisanois, that the minig hapashut, the simple minig is that if somebody has a need to fast a tainis chalaim, he could fast the Tainis Chaloim on Yom Tov. When we call Makam, but nevertheless, Masik, he comes out in the end, the Heichid Yesh Oid Sad Lahakel, if there's another reason where you could be Makel, and be Makel over here means not to fast, Yesh Lahakel Bazeh Yosem B'Shabbos, there's more of a need to be Makel and not fast the Tainis Chaloim on Yom Tov when there's a Chiyuv of Simcha than on Shabbos. And again, I know that Berurah always tells me that the best thing to do when somebody has a dream, most of the dreams are divrei batala anyway. So if somebody could overlook the dream and realize he could have emunah and betachan and realize hakol b'dei shamayim and the Rebbeinu Shalom is a meitiv and the Rebbeinu Shalom will take care of him and the dream doesn't mean anything and he could overlook it, he should just forget about the dream and not pay any attention to it. Ois Katan Yud Tes, the Ramah said that the halacha of fasting b'Yom Tov is kimay b'Shabbos. Yesha Kasru, there are those that write, Misha Mesana Tanis Chaloim, if somebody does fast the Tanis Chaloim, came and She'ena Mekayim Chetzyo Lachem. Now it comes out, we learned earlier the halacha on Yom Tov that it's supposed to be Chatzio Lachem and Chatzio Lashem. You're supposed to use half of the day in Ruchniistika pursuits, in Torah and Tefillah, and half of the day is supposed to be in Michael, Mishnah, and Simchas Yom Tov. But now you're fasting, that means that you're not really being Mekayim Chatzio Lachem. Oh, if you're not being Mekayim Chatzio Lachem, Tzarech Lihiyos Kulai Lashem. The only reason only half of the day is Lashem is because you have a heter of Chatzio Lachem. But if you're not being Mekayim Chatzio Lachem, then it's got to be Kulai Lashem. Tahainu Lilmoid Olermer Tfilois Ubakashos. So then you got to spend Yom Tov either learning or davening, saying Tehillim. But you don't have a heter to just sit around. The Ramon the Darkei Moshe disagrees, and he says the Kevam de Misane, since he's fasting, what is Pshat in a Tainus? Pshat in a Tainus is that somebody had a bad dream, and from the bad dream he feels that he might be due some sort of an einish. Obviously he realizes Hakol B'dei Shamayim. Obviously he realizes everything comes from the Rebbeinu Shalom. So in order to be mamtik the dream, in order to sweeten the dream and take away the problem, take away the einish that he might be chayiv, what he wants to do is he wants to fast. What's the fast? Fasting is not a magic cure. He wants to fast because he wants to do tshuva. He wants to fast, he wants to do tshuva, he wants to earn a kapara. So what is that? Ultimately, that's really Avodas Hashem. So therefore, the Ramah says, Kevin de Misane, since he's fasting, Mikroi Kuloi Lashem. The fasting is also called Lashem. What was that? I didn't hear you. Rav Shimon, was that you?
No.
Oh.
I was just wondering if you have, you can have,
Yeah.
You hear me?
Yes, now I do.
If you're fasting, you need to know what you're doing.
It's
Before, not just because you have a bad dream, right?
so if I heard you correctly, you're asking that if you're fasting, you have to know what you're fasting for. In other words, you have to know what you're trying to get a kapara for.
Right.
Okay, so the truth is, my answer to that would be that the person realizes when he has the dream, he realizes that he might be chayiv something, so he has to be mefashfesh b'maisav. He has to go through, he has to do an accounting in his head, and he has to find what it is that he has to do tshuva for. It's the fast is something that spurs him to think. And then once he thinks, he's going to find, okay, so now it seems to me that I have to fast for this, that, or the other thing. And that'll be Kulal Hashem. And furthermore, the Darkei Moshe says, the reason you have a heter to fast is mishum dekevan de nafshoy moraloi, he's suffering because of the fast. In that case, hatainus oinig huloi. The fast is actually the tainug for him, because the worry of the dream is weighing on his mind, and that's giving him tsar. The way he takes away that tsar is by fasting. Im kain mikri lochem. So the Ramah says that in that case, the fasting could actually be considered lochem, because that for him is the einig. That's what he needs to do in order to get the thing that's troubling him off of his mind. Okay, interesting. Now we go to Siv Gimel. Adam oichel v'shoyse v'soymeach beregel. A person is supposed to eat and he's supposed to drink. He should have a beautiful suda. V'sameach, and he should rejoice beregel on the Yom Tov. But v'lo yimshoich bebasar ubeyayin ubeschoik v'kalus roish. But he has to be careful not to allow himself to get drawn after basar. Sometimes you hear people, oh, you should see the roast that we made, So if he's going to get too drawn after the meat and the wine, and then it's going to come to schoik, to joking around, the kalus roish, and stam litzanis, silliness, that's a problem. Lefisha enas schoik v'kalus roish simcha. That's already not simcha. Ela hoilulus v'sichlus. Hoilulus v'sichlus is foolishness and silliness. V'loinitz tavinu ala hoilulus v'sichlus. And we certainly don't have a mitzvah to engage in hoilulus and sichlus. Ela al simcha. What we're supposed to have is a true simcha. Sheyesh ba'avodas hayotzer. A real simcha means a simcha of avodas Hashem. A simcha where we realize what we're being misameach for on a Yom Tov. That's a simcha, but not stam hoilulus. Says the Mishnah Berurah, and chaf eichel v'shoyse, va'afilu hu misagef atzmai mipnei tshuva b'chol yamais hashana. Even if somebody is busy with tanesim and other forms of painting himself in order to be oisik in tshuva the rest of the year, shaloi lechel basar v'shaloi lishtois yayin, so he doesn't eat meat and he doesn't drink wine, b'shabbosais on Shabbos, v'yom tov and on Yom Tov, v'chanukah. And it's very interesting that the Mishnah Berurah puts Chanukah in here. Upurim, and on Purim, chayiv lechel v'lishtois, he has an obligation to drink and to eat, and it sounds like eat meat, v'lishtois, and to drink. And he brings this down here from the Beis Yaakov and from Meiri. And I find it very interesting that he mentions Chanukah, because we know that Chanukah, we don't have a chiyuv of Suda on Chanukah, right? Purim, you have a Purim Suda. But Chanukah, we don't have a chiyuv of a Suda. It's brought down that if you have shirais v'sishpachais, and you're doing it to rejoice and thank the Rabbeinu Shalom, so there's a ktsas inyan. But over here he says, chayiv lechel v'lishtais, and he mentions Chanukah, which I found very interesting. Eis katan chaf aleph, sheyesh ba'avodas hayoytzer. A true simcha is a simcha that brings with it avodas hayoytzer. Umidas hachasidim, the midah of chasidim, Ashar Hashem lenegdom tamid. Chasidim, true oivdei Hashem, who have Hashem lenegdom samid. This is a play, of course, on the pasuk in Tehillim, Shivisi Hashem lenegdi samid. Those that say that the Rabbeinu Shalom is before them at all times. Ubechol darcheim yida'uhu. And in all of their ways, in everything that they do, yida'uhu, they recognize the Rabbeinu Shalom. Be'es simchasam, when they are misameach, az yoiser v'yoiser mishabchin lahakadosh baruch hu, when they're misameach, what their simcha brings is that they're praising and thanking the Rabbeinu Shalom more and more and more, asher simcham, who they recognize as the one who gave them simcha. In other words, the true Eved Hashem, the true Yirei Hashem, when they're misameach, together with their simcha comes a recognition that all of their simcha comes from Barei Olam. So if all of their simcha comes from Barei Olam, then they recognize, as they're misameach, they recognize more and more and more the need to praise Hashem and thank Hashem for the simcha. And I'm going to read the last footnote in the Dirshu Mishnah Berurah here, footnote number 38. And he brings down very nice from Rabbi Aaron Kotler, Zechet Tzadik Levracha. Ubegeder simcha zu. What's the geder of this true simcha? Kasav Again Rabbi Aaron Kotler in the Mishnah's Rabbi Aaron. Shehi simcha al avas Hashem yisbarech oisanu. The root of their simcha is the fact that they rejoice in the knowledge and the recognition that the Rabbeinu Shalom loves us. V'hashaychis v'hahiskarvish shalanu, and the shaychis, what's the proper English word for shaychis? The relationship, v'hahiskarvus, and the closeness shalanu that we have a love to the Rabbeinu Shalom, which comes al yidei HaTorah, through the Torah. The Torah is the vehicle that brings us closer and closer and closer to the Rabbeinu Shalom. I always say over, and I'm sure I must have said it over in this year at some point, I always say over that I posed the same question once to Reb Ruvain, Zal sein gesund, and Reb David. Now I got to say Zechet Tzadik Levracha. I posed the same question to both of them. I asked both of them that there's no question in my mind, the happiest person I ever met was Rav Moshe Zechet Tzadik Kadosh Levracha. Rav Moshe always had a smile on his face. Even when he was in pain, he had a big smile on his face. No matter what was going on, he was always smiling, he was always happy. And yet, he was the address that all the tsaras of Klal Yisrael were coming to. In the later years, probably the majority of the people that were coming to him with different levels, different variations of tsaras. They were coming to him with medical issues. They were coming to him with shalom bayis issues. They were coming to him with parnasa issues. They were coming to him with shidduch issues. They were coming to him with tough tzibur issues. And when you sit and you listen to these kind of things, hour in and hour out, day in, day out, it could just break a person. You hear tsaras and tsaras and tsaras and tsaras. Never you could become fatzarit just from listening to the tsaras. And yet Rav Moshe was always so happy. So I asked both of them if they know what it was that kept the Yeshiva Zatzal so happy at all times. I got two very different answers. Reb Ruvain, Zal sein gesund, told me, Reb Ruvain said that you believe that Kol Man Da'avid Rachmana L'Tavav. You believe that the Rebbeinu Shalom is a meitiv and everything that he does is toiv. You believe Gamzu L'Tova. He says, my father didn't believe it. My father knew it. And my father felt it in every fiber of his being. And therefore, when a Yid came to my father with a tzara, while that Yid was sitting across the table from my father cried together with that person. He felt the other Yid's tzar. So he cried together with him. He mamish felt the tsar. He said, but when that person finished, when that person got up and left, my father knew very clearly that ultimately whatever the Rebbeinu Shalom does is l'tayv. So ultimately it's tayv. Ultimately it's good. So he was able to smile. When the person left, he was able to smile. That was Reb Ruvain's answer. Reb David's answer to me comes straight out of this Mishnah Berurah. Reb David's answer to me, I asked Reb David the question. Reb David looked up at me with a big smile on his face, and he said, I asked my father the same question. And I'll tell you what my father told me. He says, my father told me, the Rebbeinu Shalom, the Borei Kol Olamim, wilt Moshe Feinstein Stickel Aveda. The Rebbeinu Shalom wants Moshe Feinstein's Aveda. And I shouldn't be misameach? The Rebbeinu Shalom wants my Aveda. My Enosh Kisis Gerenu. What am I? What am I? I'm a nothing. And the Rebbeinu Shalom wants my Aveda. How can I not be misameach? He says, that makes me be misameach no matter what. So Reb David told me that was the source of my father's simcha. The source of my father's simcha was the relationship that he had with the Rebbeinu Shalom. And that's mamish this Mishnah Berurah. Okay. Now finally we come to the last sif of this beautiful Chelik Hay. Says the Mechaber. Chayavin Beisdin Lahamid Shoitrim Birgalim. Bezdin has an achrayus, they have a responsibility to appoint shoitrim, to appoint officers, police officers, mishtara, baragolim on the Yom Tovim, sheyiyu mishaitetim, who would wander around, umechabsim, and go search, baginois in the gardens, ubepardesim, in the orchards, in the parks, Val hanaharos, and by the rivers and the lakes and the beaches. Shalo yiskaptzu sham, so that Yidden should not gather over there. Lechol v'lishtais, to eat and drink. Anoshim v'noshim, men and women together. V'yavayu lidei avera, and chas v'chalila, they should come to pritzas and to averis. V'chein yazhiru b'davar zeh l'chol ha'am, and the Mechaber says, and this is back in the time of the Mechaber by the Rishonim, V'chein yazhiru b'davar zeh l'chol ha'am, you have to warn l'chol ha'am, to all the people, shelo yis'arvu anoshim v'noshim b'batehem, that men and women should not mingle in their homes, b'simcha, mitoich too much simcha, rejoicing, v'lo yimshechu b'yayin, and drinking wine, shema yavayu l'dei avera, could be chas v'chalila, they'll come to avera, ella, rather yiyu kulam kedoshim, we have to make sure that there should be kulam kedoshim. I've seen, and specifically I'm going to mention simchas Torah. I remember specifically in one place where I was, where some of the guideposts, shall we say, are somewhat relaxed and removed. There are shuls where they have, the men are always downstairs and the women are upstairs in a balcony, and then simchas Torah, they let the women come downstairs and they put up some kind of rudimentary mechitza, and then there's drinking and this and that, and it could come to geferliche things. So the Mechaber is telling us here in the closing of Chelik Hey how careful we have to be, and we know that the minig of Bahab, why do we have Bahab, that on Sheni, Chamishi, and Sheni, Monday, Thursday, Monday, after the Rosh Chodesh, following Pesach and Sukkot, we say Slichas, and some people have the minig to fast. Why is that? It's because of this problem. Because on Yom Tov, especially Pesach and Sukkot, you have a long Yom Tov. You have days and days of Yom Tov. And you have this kind of relaxed and simchastic environment. Sometimes things get out of hand. So there were Masakin Bahab, that afterwards we say Slichas and we fast. In case somebody, whether he was using his eyes improperly or something else, we need a kapara for it. And definitely also, we always find Zulu Umazu Asa Elikim. So on Yom Tov, where we have an opportunity for aliyah, for spiritual growth, the Yetzer Hara also tries to creep in, and it tries to find a place, to find a michshel, to trip people up. So the Mechaber warns us here how careful we have to be. Says the Mishnah Berurah, nice Katan Chav Beis, V'chein yasiru b'davar zeh l'chol ha'am. Hinei, says the Chavetz Chaim, be'emes davar zeh hachiv tamid. This is a constant obligation. Lahaz here, to warn people. V'limchais mi sheyesh biyadai, and to protest, the ones who have in their ability to protest against these kind of taruvas and these kind of pritzas. Ela sheberegel matzi hakilkel b'yoser. But unfortunately on Yom Tovim, there's more room for a kilkel, and that's why the Mechaber mentions it here. V'ayin b'simen shin lamites b'bir halacha dibur amaschel lahakel, and he's referring to, if you look over here in the Sharei Tshuva here on Sif Daled, he brings down the Zichron Yosef that the Chavetz Chaim is referring to. Ayin b'Zichron Yosef shechayiv kol moira be'iroi. Every rav in his city, every paisik in his city has a chiyuv levatel harikudin u'mechaylos b'Yom Tov, to stop the dancing on Yom Tov. K'de'isa b'simin shin lamites v'tavkov chav daled af b'loi klei shir, even if it's without music. Ubachurim ubesulais, boys and girls together. Afilu b'chalamayid tzarich limchais b'chol kaicham, have to be moicha. Va'afilu al chasanas yesh lesar, and even by chasanas he says you have to be very, very, very careful. V'chein tiknu b'kama mekaimais, in many places they made takanas ve'tilu knas gadol ala oiver al zeh, and they actually instituted fines and penalties on people that are over ayin sham. So the Chavetz Chaim closes off Chelik Hey with a very stern warning to us that the modes of behavior on Yom Tov should not become relaxed, and we should make sure to adhere to our usual standards. So Baruch Hashem, that closes off Chelik Hey. I know that you're not prepared. You probably don't have a Chelik Vav in front of you, but like we always do with the Siyam, I just want to read a little bit from the beginning of Chelik Vav. So we should go straight from Chelik Hey into Chelik Vav. Chelik Vav begins, very exciting, with the halachas of Chalamayid, Hilchas Chalamayid, Siman Tov Kof Lamed, Uboy Sif Echad. There's only one sif in Siman Tov Kof Lamed, where the Mechaber says, Chalamayid Aser B'Ktsas Malachas. On Chalamayid, some malacha is Aser, Umutter B'Miktasan, and other malachas are mutter. And the Ramah says over here, and we'll learn this Ramah tomorrow, and we'll see the genius of the Ramah, how the Ramah worded what he said. Haga lefi tzarech ha'inyan shahaya nira l'chachamim lahatir. When the Mechaber says that there are some malachas that are mutter, on Chalamayid, the Ramah says, how do you know what's mutter? He says, lefi tzarech ha'inyan, according to the need for each type of thing, shahaya nira l'chachamim lahatir. Whatever the Chachamim saw as something that they should be matir, that's what's going to be mutter on Chalamayid. So Baruch Hashem, we finished another chelik. What a beautiful chelik this was. Hilchas Pesach, Hilchas Yom Tov. Personally, I don't know what you think, but I found Hilchas Yom Tov to be very, very, very challenging. In some ways, I found Hilchas Yom Tov to be harder than Hilchas Erevin. I found that Hilchas Yom Tov, in some ways, there are a lot of dakistike chilukin. There are very fine lines between what's mutter and what's aser, and to figure out all the rules and figure out all the svaras is tricky. Personally, I myself, Mirz Hashem, am going to start chazering Chelik Hey, Mirz Hashem, tomorrow. So I would urge everybody, if they can, and I'll throw you a challenge right now, and that is that in tomorrow's shir, we're going to have a beferish stira in the Mishnah Berurah. There's going to be a clear-cut contradiction in the Mishnah Berurah that we're going to learn tomorrow and the Mishnah Berurah that we learned yesterday. There's mamish a stira between a Mishnah Berurah that we had yesterday and a Mishnah Berurah that we're going to have tomorrow. So we'll see if anybody catches it. Meantime, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the Olam for being there, even though I find myself saying share most of the time to a camera. But you should know that when I say share to the camera, believe it or not, I see you. When I have the camera, those times that I mention Shlomo Zalman, it's not just because I just thought of Shlomo Zalman. I could see in my mind's eye, I see Moshe Hirsch sitting in the back on the left. I'm sorry, Shimon Hirsch. I meant Moshe Zweig, and Shimon Hirsch sitting closer to the door, and Shlomo Zalman sitting in the middle, and Willie, I see you sitting off to the left. And sometimes I even catch myself seeing Yankel sitting a little bit more to the left. And so I see you in front of me, and without seeing you in front of me, I don't know that I would be able to do it. So I feel that I'm speaking to people. Otherwise, just to talk to a camera is very hard. You can't be masber something to a camera. You can be masber something to people. So thank you so much for listening. And we're starting now Chelik Vav. I don't know if there's anybody who you could think to spread the word to, anybody who might be interested in picking up a Dirshu shir with Chelik Vav. You could tell them that they could catch it online. You could tell them the address for the YouTube channel. I am very hopeful that finally, after months and months and months and months and months, I think my website is just about ready to launch. I think what's been holding it up is it's a wonderful company. It's somebody who I did business with many years ago who's doing me a tremendous favor, but they're Einam Yehudim. And I think therefore there have been a lot of complexities to the website that they didn't and have had trouble understanding. So it's taken a long time to get it set up, but I think we're really, really on the cusp of launching it. And once we do that, it'll be, I think, an even easier. The videos will still be hosted by YouTube. So when you go to the website and you click on a video, it's going to open it up like in a YouTube box. But I think the layout and everything else will be a little bit easier to navigate and a little bit more pleasant. And also people who are hesitant to go on YouTube, they don't have to go on YouTube. They're going to see the video and everything on my website, and the YouTube suggestions will be blocked as well. So they don't have an exposure to the wider world of YouTube. So if you could think of anybody who might want to get interested in the share, I would ask you to try and spread the word. Let's see if we could increase the size of the group a little bit. So thank you. And like I always sign off, the Rebbeinu Shalom should send Yeshuas and Refuas and Parnasa. The Rebbeinu Shalom should be Megan and Gans Klal Yisrael. It's an Ace Tzara L'Yakov. And it's such just strange times with this whole tzara and everything the Rebbeinu Shalom is doing here. The Rebbeinu Shalom should make it go away. I don't want to say, don't limit the Rebbeinu Shalom. We should wake up tomorrow morning, it should all be over, which definitely could happen. And the best way it could happen is the Rebbeinu Shalom should just bring the Bias Gal Tzedek B'Meheri V'Yameinu. And then the whole thing is over, and we can go to Eretz Yisrael, and we can taka be Mesameach with Basar Kachim. And it's good to see all of you. And if anybody wants to say anything, now I'll be quiet and I can listen.
Thank you.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Reb Shimon, I wanted to ask you a quick question. Am I remembering, do you do jewelry repair?
Yes, I do.
You do? Okay.
Yes.
So I have to give you a call. I have a broken piece of jewelry that's giving me a tremendous amount of grief.
No problem. No
Okay.
problem.
But happy grief.
Anytime.
What was that, Shalom Zalman?
I said, but happy grief, because that's what the Rebbeinu Shalom wanted.
Absolutely. Willie, are you still there? I don't know. I don't hear him. All right, everybody be well. Oh, so I just wanted to say in closing, I would be very happy to start doing this at least, maybe 1 or 2 times a week, even if not every day. So, if you, what is this a time slot that works for people?
That's fine. That's
So for you two, it works. Okay, so I'm going to reach out to other people and let's see. And again, they can always watch it on YouTube. It's going to be on YouTube. It's not going to, when I do this right now, it's on Zoom and it's streaming to YouTube at the same time. And so it'll be there. If somebody misses, they can always pick it up on YouTube. Okay, be well.
Hey.